Genesis 6, Wickedness in the World. I haven't posted for a while. I saw an article about a TV preacher who wants his parishioners to cough up some ungodly amount of money for a jet plane that he can take all around the world without having to refuel, so that he can get there faster and serve those people, as he's serving himself drinks, no doubt, on the plane. Because he thought that if Jesus were alive today, that he wouldn't be riding a donkey, he'd be riding in a fancy jet plane. Which shows that he apparently doesn't believe, nor has even read the Bible, that Jesus is alive today. That's sort of one of the central tenets of the faith. And that after his resurrection, he was able to sort of pop in and out at will wherever he wanted to. Like when he showed the disciples the holes in his hands and said, "I'm hungry, do you have any fish?" And then disappeared, sort of without a trace. Now, either you believe that or you don't. If you don't, Jesus was not just a nice guy, then what is the point of giving this guy a jet plane? And if you do believe it, then what is the point of giving this guy a jet plane? Wickedness in the world. 6. When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterwards, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. They were the heroes of old, men of renown. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil at the time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on the earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them. But Noah found favor in the eyes of God." Okay, so who these spirit people were, aliens, angels, whatever, the children of God, mixing with the humans and creating the Nephilim, I really have no idea. Titans, it's something. I don't know. I mean, maybe we are, part alien. Certainly don't have a strong resemblance to other primates, other than, the general form of our frame, this whole bit hairlessness but the hair on top and all that stuff is just, it's different than any other primate, we're clearly different if we're not in a completely separate genus, I would say. Something happened to make us, and maybe we're part primate, but clearly we're different in some major fundamental regards, and not to mention just the noodle. So who knows? But the thing is that even if that's the case, that doesn't mean that God doesn't exist. The one doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the other, although there might be some of those space people who would want you to think so. And as for God being troubled, I get it. I log on to Facebook, see all these trolls trying to make people feel bad about themselves, see all these stupid preachers wanting a $50 million jet plane. I'd be troubled too. I'd be regretful too, thinking, geez, are there any among you who are decent folk? Noah and the flood. This is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people on the earth had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I am going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood, make rooms in it, and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door on the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks. I am going to bring floodwaters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has the breath of life in it. Everything on the earth will perish, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you. You are to bring into the ark 2 of all living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along the ground will come to you to be kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Somebody giving a lecture on Noah once pointed out that there do appear to be 2 separate manuscripts that have been edited together at some point in the past, which is, interesting. There's the version with the crow and there's the version with the dove. And there's the sort of factually version that lists all these facts and figures, and then there's the emotional version that lists how they felt, and they're sort of interspersed. And theory was they came from 2 separate tellings of the same story that were re-edited together by a later editor. And okay. So there was a period after the Ice Age around, I think it was like 11,000 to 10,500 or something like that, 12,000 to 10,500 BC, where according to the geological record, after things melted down, the earth was pretty nice. There was a lot more life going on, and things were getting back to normal in terms of the climate. And then there was a period called the Lesser Dryas, which was sort of a mini ice age where things cooled off again and became, very lots of areas became more unlivable. And then after that, there was a period of probably very intense rainfall when things normalized again, which might have caused extreme flooding. So there's, some truth to the story, I think, in the geological record. Maybe not at exactly the same times that Kirk Cameron is obsessed with, or whatever, It's not important. What's important is recognizing that this story of Noah could have come from real facts, been handed down generation to generation. That some crazy guy got a message from God that he was supposed to build a big boat to survive these colossal floods, because the safest place to be in the floods was on the sea, and to battle the weather on the sea versus being washed away on the land, and to hoard up the grain and everything that would have been ruined on land, and to put it in a vessel that could survive the floodwaters. Put some animals and plants in there to repopulate, and maybe the animals and plants were inspired by God to come on the boat too. I mean, why not? There's nothing impossible about that. And I don't know. I'm going to go on with 7. The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made." And Noah did all that the Lord commanded of him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came on the earth, and Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood, pairs of clean and unclean animals, Birds and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark as God had commanded Noah. And after 7 days the floodwaters came on the earth. In the 600th year of Noah's life, on the 17th day of the 2nd month, on that day all the springs of the great deep burst forth, and the floodgates of the heavens were open, and rain fell on the earth 40 days and 40 nights. On that very day Noah and his sons Shem, Ham, and Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind. See, here we're getting a repetition of the same story, which may have been from a different manuscript, telling the same thing that's edited back together as a canonical work. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all the livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, and as God had commanded Noah, then the Lord shut him in. Not sure what that means. For 40 days the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits. Every living thing that moved on land perished: birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out, people and animals and the creatures that moved along the ground and the birds that were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. And whether this is literally the entire earth, how could he know? Nobody had traversed the entire earth. Nobody did that for a long time. So, whoever wrote this couldn't know that. But, sounds like there was some pretty bad flooding. That wherever these people lived, whatever they considered mountains, were washed away with so much water as to make everything just unlivable on land. It's possible. The extremes of weather at times in the past have been worse than we've ever seen. Hurricane Katrina, whatever, it's a light mist compared to what the earth can produce and has, according to the records in the ground, minerals and so forth. So there have been times when so much water has been present in the atmosphere that something like this could happen to a geographic area that seems like the whole world to these people. So that's great. But it's, what does it mean? Well, he got the sense from his connection, and he acted on it. And that's the message of the story. 8. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and the livestock that were with him in the ark, and he sent a wind over the earth, and the waters receded. Now the springs of the deep and the floodgates of the heavens had been closed, and the rain had stopped falling from the sky. The water receded steadily from the earth. At the end of the 150 days the water had gone down, and on the 17th day of the 17th month the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. The waters continued to recede until the 10th month, and on the first day of the 10th month the tops of the mountains became visible. After 40 days Noah opened a window he had made in the ark and sent out a raven, and it kept flying back and forth until the water had dried up from the earth. Then he sent out a dove to see if the water had receded from the surface of the ground. But the dove could find nowhere to perch because there was water all over the surface of the earth, so it returned to Noah in the ark. He reached out his hand and took the dove and brought it back to himself in the ark. He waited 7 more days and again sent out the dove from the ark. When the dove returned to him in the evening, there in its beak was a freshly plucked olive leaf. Then Noah knew that the water had receded from the earth. He waited 7 more days and sent the dove out again, but this time it did not return to him. By the first day of the 1st month of Noah's 601st year, the water had dried up from the earth. Noah then removed the covering from the ark and saw that the surface of the ground was dry. By the 27th day of the second month, the earth was completely dry. So that's interesting. The ark might not even have been a boat. It might have just been a really big building. A giant barn. That he made sturdy enough to withstand all this water on the top of a hill. And everything appeared to be covered with water all the time because it was pouring rain for 150 days. And no one could do anything. It's entirely conceivable. And we're like, okay, well, we're staying in this giant barn. Great. We got all the food we need. Good job, Noah. That was crazy, but we believed you, and it worked out. Then God said to Noah, "Come out of the ark, you and your wife, and your sons and your wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it." So Noah came out together with his sons and his wife and his sons' wives. All the animals and all the creatures that move along the ground and all the birds, everything that moves on land, came out of the ark, one kind after another. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, taking some of all the clean animals and clean birds. He sacrificed burnt offerings on it. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done." That's harsh. Every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. That's pretty harsh, Is that true? I have inclinations in my heart that are not evil. I think. I don't think that that's hubris to say so. I certainly have sin. That doesn't mean I'm not a nice person. I think that Jesus disagrees as God. Maybe God is changing his mind. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night will never cease. As long as the earth endures. Oh, we could put a stop to that if we wanted to. Or we could see to it that it endures. That's now the choice that's been given to us. God's covenant with Noah, 9. Then God blessed Noah and his sons, saying to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. The fear and dread of you will fall on all the beasts of the earth and all the birds on the sky, on every creature that moves along the ground, and on all the fish in the sea. They are given into your hands. Everything that lives and moves about will be food for you. Just as I gave you the green plants, now I give you everything. But you must not eat meat that still has its lifeblood in it. And for your lifeblood I will surely demand an accounting. I will demand an accounting from every animal, and from each human being too. I will demand an accounting for the life of another human being." So, he's not saying don't eat animals, but he is saying treat them kindly. Don't be cruel to them. Don't pick them up with forklifts and shove them down, Don't keep a bird in a cage so tight it can't move around. I have big problems with the way that we eat. I clearly eat too much as I've gained weight since the last recording. And I eat meat. And a lot of it is factory produced, because that's what's available. And I get hungry. I'm sorry. But it's interesting that he says that. That's something that he knows. And the message being that God sees through the consciousness of every living thing, no matter how small that consciousness might be. As long as the earth endures, seed time and harvest. Whoever sheds human blood, by humans shall their blood be shed. For in the image of God has God made mankind. Parallel to the later, he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. He who lives by God shall live with God forever. As for you, be fruitful and increase in number, multiply on the earth and increase upon it. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that was with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, and all those that came out of the ark with you, every living creature on the earth. I establish my covenant with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. Never again will there be a flood to destroy the earth. And God said, This is the sign of the covenant I am making between you and every living creature with you, a covenant for all generations to come. I have set my rainbow in the clouds, and it will be a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. Whenever I bring the clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. Never again will the waters become a flood to destroy all life. Whenever the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all the living creatures of every kind on the earth. So God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant I have established between me and all life on the earth. And I'll stop there. Now, there's a lot of interpretation over the ensuing 10,000 years or whatever about what that covenant means. All that God is saying and it means in that passage is that he won't cause the floods to rain over the earth to destroy all life on the earth. There have been floods. They haven't destroyed all life on the earth. I don't know. It doesn't seem to say much else. That's where I'm quitting today. But it's not about the details. You know? Not about the details. It's about believing that there's some truth to the story. There was a really bad flood. Noah built an ark, whatever that is. A boat, a barn. Doesn't really matter. Did he have 2 ostriches and 2 emus? Did he not have emus because they're from Australia? I mean, like, you know, would it be a really, really big barn if he really had 2 of every animal on the earth? Yeah, that's not realistic. I mean, it would be such a big barn that it would fall down. Or such a big boat that it would sink. That doesn't make any sense. But that's not the point. It was the world to them. It was their world. And they're tribal people. It was maybe 100 miles. Doesn't matter. The point was that here's a guy who has some connection. And he hears the message. And he does something that nobody else thinks should be done. Because they don't believe that anything is going to be different than how it is now. But it could be different. It could all be very different tomorrow. It could all be gone tomorrow. In this day and age, the whole world could be gone tomorrow. And humanity would not survive. Arcs and all. We wouldn't be able to figure it out. But that doesn't have to happen anymore. And that's God's message, is that we can trust that that's not going to happen. And that we're okay. And that things will be okay. And that we can stop hitting each other on the head with sticks, or gunning each other down with machine guns, or nailing each other to crosses, or trolling each other on Facebook, or whatever. We can stop those things. We don't have to do those things anymore. Because the great fear of destruction, of nothingness, is not something that we have to act on anymore. It's not real. If we trust in God's covenant with Noah and the ensuing modifications of that, whatever, addendums, let's say, we don't have to worry. And one of the things in the New Testament is, what have we to worry for who believe? Because what does it matter? You can let go of all that fear. And that's the message that I think is the ultimate goal of the Bible. So all that fear is meaningless. When you look at the world through the eyes of God and let God see the world through you, and then see through God's perception of yourself and the world around you, that it could be a good place if we would just stop messing it up. Stop hurting each other. Stop hurting ourselves. Live a good life on simple principles. Don't be so angry at each other for their variations. Just live your own life in a good way and trust that it'll all work out. Because God's looking out for us, and He's bigger than any one of us. Why couldn't it be like that? I can see why God would have some regret, because it didn't turn out like that. We'll see.